think this might work. Is it? Is it? Can everybody hear me? So thank you, Rob. Do you also have the remote for me? Somewhere?
Should be a clicker on that.
So when you're trying to find that, Rob and I had a discussion in Fort Lauderdale. Ah, there it is. Yeah, thank you. And the discussion was, I was actually complaining about these summits. And I said to Rob, and we were having a nice conversation and a nice cup of coffee, and I said to Rob, listen, these platforms, there are way too many, and they are continuously recycling the same topic, the same content over and over again, and they're popping up like crazy. Who agrees with that? Oh, you have a business model. So the reason why he invited me, and I was genuinely concerned about the fact that we are continuously traveling all over the world, and we're tapping into the same bucket, and we're not innovating enough. So he asked me, well, are you willing to speak at this conference? Yes, of course, if it's the right topic. And I didn't choose the topic. You suggested this. So I thought, okay, wait, why not? Let's try and see if we can bring in some insights into this room, because this is Laurens still here? Because this is the blah blah topic of today. He's not here anymore? Okay, pity. So I thought, okay, let's tap into what we have learned as Feadship and see if we can give you some of the thought process that we have gone through while trying to be relating to today's world, if you will, and the industry at large that we're all in. So this is, I think, 13 years ago. And this was part of a process of soul searching as Feadship. Because we needed to go through a process of identifying ourselves. Who are we as a brand? What is our brand DNA? What is the value proposition? And how are we going to come across as a brand? And how does that serve the purpose of our commercial activation? And this was in a time, and it still is actual today. Open any magazine and look at many advertisements. It's boat, 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 and another boat. But based on all those advertisements and those objects of desire that are always portrayed as products, how do you make the differentiation? How do you invest in your own brand to make sure that you stand out? And until today, we still see the same type of advertising. Now, luckily for us, and many colleagues are here. I see the likes of Amos. I see other colleagues also here, Leursen, of course. When I started already before Feadship, the PA was actually executing the marketing of that brand. And they were not branding, they were executing marketing. There's a big difference, a substantial difference between marketing and branding. Nowadays, you see full departments that have increasingly professionalized. And why is this important? Because I think that is the only sustainable way of investing in our industry to make it grow. And the reason for that are the following slides that I'm going to share with you. But this was part of a, thinking outside the box, where we tried to come up with, okay, what would be a showstopper next to boat, 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 boat? What will keep people focused and say, hey, what is that, and why am I looking at this? By the way, we never use this. For your eyes only. Some people might actually remember this advertising. This advertisement was created 11, 12 years ago based on that principle. So we left out these beautiful men that you just saw, and we replaced it with the engine room and the ballerina, contradicting and not showcasing the metal and steel and the raw power, but showing delicacy, taste, discipline and beauty in one single picture. You don't even have to add wordings to it to understand and make it come through from an emotional point of view. So, before taking a deep dive into the topic, let's try to zoom out a little. One of the things that I was actually complaining to Rob about is the fact that the topics that we're always talking about are sustainability and technical topics. They're all oriented on the technical specs, if you will, the engineering of this industry. But we never highlight the context if you take a helicopter view of what's happening around us. I gave a lecture some years ago about the generational takeover. You can still find articles about that. And after that, we've done extensive surveys on the uncharted luxury. Because if you look at all the trend reports about luxury retail, and you follow the trends and try to apply them on our industry, it simply doesn't work. But you have to look into the topics that we never talk about. We never talk about the sanctions that are upon Russia at the moment, and all the Russian clients that we're not allowed to serve, but in the meantime, they're being served by Turkey, Asia, and so on. What happens if the sanctions are lifted? What are we going to do then? Why aren't we talking about these things? At the moment, this weekend, we're experiencing another war that is maybe impacting our industry. So we have these wars going on, there are sanctions going on, we have shifting alliances, we have volatile capital flows. We just touched upon one topic like that. And so a lot is happening within our space that we can't do anything about it. And what makes the difference is that all these events that are happening, there's only one thing that still stands out. That is the fact that they're still buying boats. And why? Because of the emotional connection to our industry. And that makes the big difference, even with all the complexity of what's happening around us. We still have our order books. And we saw the beautiful charts that were presented this morning. And this is where I think the professionalization of marketing and branding is all about. And that is going to make a difference. And how is that? Well, first, let's go to the uncomfortable truth. Yeah, we're a cottage industry. We're a caravan. We're going from boat show to boat show, summit to summit. Exactly the same people, exactly the same in-crowd of this industry. You're meeting each other, and it's nice. You're all lovely people. And we do connect to a certain extent. But we're not looking outside anymore. So this caravan that shows incremental changes in the formats. We might change a stand, we might change a brochure, we might change a website, but are we doing things that are really differentiators? Are we really making a difference? Are we really making an effort to attract younger, new, other demographics type of clients? My opinion is that we're not doing that enough in showcasing this industry that is radiating and dripping from very exciting stuff. The broker community is literally showcasing the lifestyle part of it, and that's amazing, and that's wonderful. But we still have so much to gain in this joint effort to really create a proper shop window to take away that narrative of negativity in the media landscape. So, before I go on, I just wanted to, my peers in the marketing space, forget all the new books, forget all the enormous literature that is coming out today, unless it's about AI, and you can follow that because that's quite new. But in the core essence, go back to these two books. They are written decades ago, and they are still extremely valuable today from a content point of view. Pine and Gilmore, The Experience Economy, and Paul Arden, Whatever You think the opposite. If you just follow these two guidelines, you will definitely come to a space where you're going to reinvent yourself. Because what do they say? Specifications and technical arrangements and the real product is not create the premium value that the client is willing to pay. The difference between premium and specification is experience and emotion. The willingness to pay more for your product because they love your brand. And if you do that in an authentic, different way, that's where the magic begins. And being different is not a goal in itself, but thinking of how to inspire, curate experiences and memories with these clients, that's what makes the difference. And if we all start to invest in that, I think collectively we have a lot of potential to reach way bigger audiences. If you look at the leap of wealth, how that is increasing, we're not growing in the same pace. So there is a huge gap between the growth of, well, it's basically stability of the yachting sector, because we've never, the last 15 years, we haven't delivered, in our order books, if you look at the 30-meter plus arena, we have never delivered more than 160 yachts, roughly about 60 yachts, 160 yachts per year. And it's been always like that. While the wealth comparison is growing like crazy. And it's not only concentrated in the West, it's also concentrated to the global South. And that is literally growing, and we are not tapping well enough into that arena. So I don't think our industry lacks creativity. I think we lack the courage to look stupid and to take risks in that sense. And I know the capital risks are huge, but at the same time, if you don't try it, you won't know. So this journey, this soul-searching journey that we went in, resulted in a lot of quotes. We know now exactly what our DNA is. We know exactly what our value proposition is. We know who our audience is. We define them in personas. We define them in regions, and so on. But it's also resulted in a philosophy. And the philosophy is, it's so much fun when you look at these two words. Because why looks so much better with the word not. What have we done with it? So we've explored many new initiatives that within our space and outside of our space. I'm just going to highlight a few and the reasoning behind it. So I told you about this story already. It was just a showstopper in the advertising space. But a few years ago, we partnered with Dior, and we created an event at La Cornoise. Anybody familiar with that? It's the private villa of Christian Dior. It's not open for public. It's basically only upon reservation and if you're invited. And we invited our clients to go to this space. I'm going to show you just a little footage of that. If there's audio? No? So obviously, this was not about a boat. We are not on a boat. And it's just sharing beautiful memories with our clients in a totally different space while touching upon what we're all about as a brand, as a DNA, if you will. I think this is probably, and I'm going to tell you because we posted about it and it's public knowledge, or else we wouldn't have shared it. This is actually a very fun project, because this is probably the event where most of potential clients and the target group comes to from in our space, in the Feadship client space. So what we do here is, on the 30th of December, common knowledge with my peer shipyards, on the 30th of December, in St. Bart's, we organize a party, one evening before the 31st, end of year. And nobody actually receives an invitation for this. We do this with, at Cheval Blanc. I don't know if you are familiar with St. Bart's or not. But basically what we do is, 3 days before the event, that's when the invitations are being sent out. And how do we do that? We just go out on a tender, just living the, experiencing the lifestyle, and we go from yacht to yacht, 40 meters and up, and we invite them on the spot. And what they do, actually, is they have a full week planned, but not on the 30th. And with all their guests on board, they are quite bored to death being continuously with them and around them. And they actually come to this event. And we end up with a few hundred of these guests. And we've become the Tinder of their children during those events. Because you see the actual owners, they're engaging with each other, and their children are at the DJ booth, and it's hilarious to see. It's very fascinating. Just a little impression. So it's not about the factual purchase of a yacht. It's about the experience of bringing people together. I'm almost done. How much do I have? I already passed my time, no? Okay. So at a certain point in time, and this is a funny story, but we have our sales team, and Marcia is part of them. And during boat shows, we were having always these stands that everybody's performing the same act, where a lot of suppliers come to sell their stuff to you. And we said to sales, well, we are closing down the stand, and so you don't have a physical stand anymore to stand there and have a little office where you can meet with your clients. It's gone. Because we built a 4D movie theater at the Monaco Yacht Show and Fort Lauderdale Boat Show and the Singapore Boat Show. And it was all about a very immersive experience. It was the build of Savannah being brought into life through a 4D sensory movie experience. The funny thing was that the actual owner, he now unfortunately died, but the actual owner of that yacht was in Singapore. And he was in the city and he saw all those Panama hats coming by. And he was not aware of the fact that there was a boat show. And he asked them, where did you get that hat? And they said, well, there's a boat show, maybe you want to visit. And Feadship is there too. And he came to visit with his following and his children and his girlfriend. And we hosted him, and he hasn't seen the movie, actually. He went in, he watched the movie with, I thought it was 8 of them. He literally came out crying. Now, that is value for us. Because then you are very, very tapping into the emotion that we find very important. And that is a differentiator, because that client is an ambassador. I will. It said, please wrap up. this is a new event that we have created. I'll tell you all about it. I'm going to close off with, during Corona, everybody was locked inside. We were not allowed to do anything. And we were hearing about these illegal parties by young people. And we said, okay, oh, that's cool. So why don't we facilitate that? And we came up with Sound Waves, which is an illegal party booster. And it was going to be aired through YouTube, and you could have your own illegal party during Corona. And that's what we did. And some of them look like this. And that is the last slide for the one that's trying to shut me up. Thank you. I'm leaving the rest.
Thanks, Farouk. That was fantastic. Does anyone have any questions, by the way, while Farouk's still here?
No questions?
No questions?
Cool.
Oh, here we go. There we go. Address some of those for us, Farouk.
What brands outside the super yacht market do you rate? Well, it depends on your own preference. For me, I like, if I would rate a brand, it would be Patek Philippe, probably, because they're very consistent in the way they express themselves. They have a curated brand image that is really, really close to the core and the essence of what the brand stands for. I love Dior, obviously, because they have a fundament that they don't deviate from. If you compare, for instance, Dior with Louis Vuitton, you would see a slight difference because one is a very urbanized brand that is going in all directions, that's Louis Vuitton, while Dior is very consistent. It's all about timeless beauty. It's all the philosophy of the creator that is still continuing into today's designs. And I find that amazing if you're able to keep on surprising and really triggering everybody's emotion. And that's something that we have all the ingredients with what we're making. Because in the end, these enormous objects are still an emotional purchase. Interesting question. No. How many different personas are you trying to reach? You have demographics. You have age groups. In the past, if you look at our average client, what is it, 58, 56 years old, on average? But they would grow into eventually buying a Feadship. But we suddenly have first-timers being around between 30 and 40, let's say it like that, suddenly buying a 90-meter Feadship. Never been like that before. We had a few of those examples. So I think you have to look at regional, cultural differences, demographics that are very important nowadays, is because we're so focused on the US market, which is, of course, very important, but there are so many emerging markets. Who knows who has the highest willingness to buy a yacht in the world? Which background? Anybody know? The highest propensity to buy, looking at the number of people that have the ability to buy, is basically the Middle Eastern client. 50% of all the ultra-high net worth individuals are buying into this market. 50%. Imagine what that would do if those were Americans with their numbers. So we have an enormous amount of opportunity, if you will. How many yearly deliveries should there be? There's a question that I always ask my colleagues is, because this market is continuously growing, we're not a replacement industry like the automotive. You know, there's a huge chunk of the market disappearing because new ones are being built. We're not like that. Our yachts, all of us, are still there. So the total market is continuously growing. So my personal biggest concern is, when is that saturation point? And so I think you have to really think in the economic cycle of what your owner brings to the table and how you are going to serve that total, the ecosystem of your brand.
Okay, should we do that?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Farouk.
Thank you.